Education and Learning Research at the Space Science Institute, and manager of the Star Library Education Network, which is why you're all here. Joined by Claire and Brooks on camera, who can help answer any questions you guys might have, and Amy Briones, who's also, I think, hiding somewhere in the chat. And then we also have, but I think she is just on phone, Taryn from the Howard Hughes Medical Institute Tangled Bank Studios, who's the sponsors of this program, is also on here, just in case you guys have any questions about the funder that I am not able to answer. So yeah, like Claire said, if you have any questions as we go, plop them in the chat. If it feels complicated, just say, hey, can you unmute me so I can talk? And we are happy to do that. This webinar is going to be recorded, so if you have to step away, you'll be able to go back and find your spot once that is posted, and we'll get that posted tomorrow. So let me go ahead and start with sharing my screen, and I will show you where you can find all of these resources. I have lost the share button. There it is, the big green button, Annie. Good job, A+. All right, so I'm going to share my desktop. All right, so the best place for you guys to find information about this project is going to be on the StarNet community website, which is just community.starnetlibraries.org. And then what we are going to do, just like we've done for some of our recent projects, is all of the information about this upcoming project is going to be put into one blog post so that you can always come back to this same blog post, bookmark it, and be able to find any of the stuff that we've talked about or any new resources that we've put up. So that is the Science Across America New Opportunity for Libraries blog posts, our lovely new logo for this particular project created by Amy. So Science Across America, again, funded by the lovely folks at HHMI Tangled Bank Studios, is part of our Science Across America initiative. So those of you who are familiar with our Flight Path program, this is kind of part 2 in that series, and then there'll be a part 3 late 2026, early 2027, Science Across America, because it is celebrating America's 250th birthday, is a year-long project, so it runs all through 2026, giving folks lots of time and lots of opportunities for participation. So again, I'm sure someone has now put this link in the chat, but bookmark this, this blog post, and again, this will be where you can find all of the information about the project. So here within this blog post, I'm just going to click through and show you some of the stuff that we already have posted for you. The very first thing, if my description of the project wasn't quite enough, is going to be this lovely press release about the project. So if any of you need to, get permission from your directors or from other folks at your library or your venue before you apply and you need more information about the project, this press release is the best place to go. So it talks about, again, how this project is part of our Spark of Science campaign, who the funders are, what exactly it is that we're talking about in this program, celebrating 250 years of science in America, and then also some of our fun partners like Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, the Science and Entertainment Exchange, and others that are also going to be part of this program. So that's the first little goodie here in the blog post. You will also, here's the link. You guys already found this because you're in the pre-application webinar, but we'll be putting the recording in the recording and some screenshots from this webinar right here, right under this, once we have that available tomorrow. I'm going to skim through this part real quick because we're going to come back to it in a second. I just want to show you everything in the blog post first. So we've got our selection criteria. We'll come back to that and what the libraries who participate will receive. But first, I just wanted to show you real quick. So number one, just like all of our other applications, your application is going to be submitted through the SurveyMonkey platform. We'll show you that link in a minute here and go through the questions. We have gone ahead and put those questions into a Word document as well. I highly recommend that you type out all of your answers ahead of time in that Word document and then copy paste them into SurveyMonkey. Theoretically, we have the SurveyMonkey set up so that if you're typing your answers and SurveyMonkey crashes or something, it should, as long as you're on the same computer and in the same browser, it should remember you and allow you to go right back to where you were. But just in case, it's always good to have your answers typed out in another document instead. A couple people have already had the issue where they just typed in random answers just to see what the questions were, and then they're like, oh no, now I can't submit a new application because it's only one per IP address. If you go ahead and just do a incognito tab or something of that nature, go to a different browser, then you're able to do another application. So no worries if you accidentally did that. You're still able to access it. Just go incognito and you should not have a problem. The last two documents, which again we'll go through in a bit, but just letting you know that they're here, that I want to highlight is the rubric for the application. Again, we always provide those so that you guys know what we're looking for. And then a general FAQ about the project and the requirements and eligibility requirements for this program. And again, we'll get to that in a minute. But first, I think let us go ahead and head straight to the RFP, where we've got the questions that we're going to be asking you guys to fill out. I'll just pause for a minute and see if there's any questions, though, before I get going. Excellent. Thank you, Claire, for getting all of that stuff in there. Perfect. So again, just throw your questions in chat if you have them. So going through this really quick, first, I just want to share what participating libraries are going to get out of this program. You'll notice that we don't have a number of libraries necessarily listed. There will be about 107-ish libraries chosen for this initiative. So we're hoping for 2 from every state and every U.S. territory. If you are not sure if you are eligible by those descriptions, just email me and ask. State libraries are eligible as long as you can do public programs. If you are a freely associated state like Palau, yes, you are eligible, but has to be a kind of U.S. Based or adjacent state territory, freely associated state. So the selected libraries will receive a $500 honorarium. This will help to cover the costs of your events and your program outreach. You just submit a form for that at the beginning of the program. Kind of, it's your contract for participating in the program. You don't need to submit receipts. You don't need to have those programs or anything lined up. We just provide the honorarium that comes directly from Tangled Bank Studios. We just provide that once you are contracted as part of this project. Each participating library will receive a printed story wall poster to document your community science story. So we are still working on this, but it'll be one of the resources available to you guys and to anyone who's interested, even if they're not participating in the program, to access and print out if you want to create smaller versions. So in essence, those of you who've worked with us in the past might be familiar with the story wall idea. It's just a physical thing on a wall, like literal story wall, where your patrons can respond to some questions. So the questions might be like, what neat science is happening in your community? What science do you want to do when you grow up, if it's like in the kids area of the library, right? So we'll be providing kind of the backdrop for those questions, and you guys can really customize it with the type of questions that you want to ask, where you're going to put it in your library. This particular item is going to be kind of like a puzzle, so it's going to come in multiple pieces. So you can choose to display it all together as one big poster, or if you want to break it up and put one in the adult section, one in the kids section, one in the teen section, and have various questions and templates based on the audience that's going to see it. That's all fine. You'll get more information about that as we develop it, but it's going to be really neat. You guys who saw Amy's amazing artwork from Flight Path know that it's going to be really pretty too. We're also going to be sharing some informal activity guides, so created by StarNet and HHMI Tangled Bank, including curated materials related to basic science areas. So again, the whole purpose of this project, let's celebrate 250 years of amazing science that's happened in the United States. So we want to make sure that while you're celebrating that science, you've got fun and engaging and library appropriate hands-on activities around that basic science. Related to that, we're going to have, specific to this program, a how-to guide for hosting science-centered community dialogues. Many of you have done community dialogues or similar sorts of community conversations like the Harwood conversations in the past, but we want to do one for this project specifically centered around science in your community. So the community dialogues and that story wall, as well as the activity guides, really go and work together to kind of create, display, and share that story of local science happening in your community. So what we really hope happens is between the story wall and the community dialogues, you start to learn about all of the great science, both you as a librarian and your patrons in the community start to learn about the great science that has already happened or is currently happening in your community, the folks who might be able to come and do a program, folks who have resources, displays that you can put in your library that maybe you didn't know about. So what we're doing with those informal activity guides then is really getting some basic science stuff out there that then you can tie to those science stories that you're uncovering. So for example, if you learn that one of your patrons actually is an amateur astronomer that discovered a comet, and you're like, oh my gosh, what hands-on science can I do around comets? That's impossible. It's not impossible. We have a really cool activity called Cook Up a Comet, where you use dry ice and a bunch of stuff you can find around your kitchen to actually physically create comets and learn more about how comets work. So all that neat science that you're going to find, you're going to think, oh no, how do I do this? What do I do around it? But we're going to provide the activities that will help to support that. And you can always reach out to us and we can find activities if we don't already have those ready based on the neat science that you're finding. If that sounds a little bit daunting, like, oh my gosh, a community dialogue, I've not done them in the past because they've been optional. Now Annie is saying that we have to do one of these. Don't worry. Brooks, Claire, and myself are going to kind of split ourselves across those 107 libraries. And every library who's participating will have one of us as your key contact to work with to help develop your community dialogue, to work through the questions, to answer any questions you guys might have. If you are semi-local to us, you might even get us to come and help facilitate your dialogue. If we aren't local to you, we can help virtually facilitate. Or again, we can at the very least help you guys walk through some questions. We can record an intro for your community dialogue about this project and why it's important. So really, we're here for you to use as a resource, and you'll each get assigned to one of us once the participating libraries have been chosen. Then, of course, you'll receive promotional materials. And another cool thing that you'll get that kind of works as a promotional material, but is so much deeper than that, is a digital map. So we're creating this map that you guys, regardless of if you're chosen for this project, everyone can participate. You guys are going to help populate this map that highlights key scientific advances and achievements and allows libraries to showcase the local science that matters to your community. So we're in the process of building this map right now. It's going to have a whole bunch of different layers where you can choose the science content you're looking for, choose if you want to just find stuff in your state, just find stuff that people from your library have posted. There's going to be a lot of different ways to use this, lots of really cool videos developed by Tangled Bank Studios. We're working on it right now. So we're going to, when we launch this map, have a couple hundred kind of key moments in science across the United States. And then we're relying on you guys and your patrons to identify the rest of the really cool science moments that we want to put on this map to highlight the cool things that have happened in the state of Arkansas, all the way down to the very, very cool local thing that happened here right next door to my library. So that'll be really neat. We'll have more information about that as we go. Tangled Bank Studio is also creating a whole bunch of videos. I believe it's one per state about the cool science happening across the United States. Featuring community-based science and then local scientists from across the country. So those will be really neat. Those will be linked on the map, and we'll also have them linked on the community page as well. We're also doing some virtual programs. In fact, some of you probably will see tomorrow a email message about a bird-based, a flight path based program by Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. So these are folks that do virtual programs, and I know the second I say that, a lot of you roll your eyes and say, oh my gosh, Annie, I did so many virtual programs during COVID. I am over them. They are not fun. And I will be honest with you, I thought the exact same thing. And then I went to one of these Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants webinars, and I was literally on the edge of my seat the entire time. It was so amazing. This particular one that we're doing in a couple weeks is about really cool birds, and they'll have live birds on the screen doing very unscripted things. And it's just, this is a really cool organization that really has found a way to take what might otherwise be boring virtual programs and make them super duper exciting. So we will have access to them to do programs on a variety of topics for science across America, which is very, very exciting. You guys will also have access to hundreds of scientific experts through the Science and Entertainment Exchange, which is from the National Academy of Sciences. So these are either local or local-ish scientists who might be able to participate in programs, might be able to answer scientific questions, direct you guys to citizen science programs near you, lots of different things that they'll be able to do. And then the last thing, we are partnering with SciStarter, who I'm sure many of you have heard of, who do citizen science activities. Their celebration of America's 250th anniversary is a program called Acts of Science Connected. And so there's an opportunity for libraries participating in our program to also participate in theirs and participate in some, I'll say participate 17 more times, and do some live stream events during Citizen Science Month in conjunction with Earth Day. In early April, that is not the only opportunity to do citizen science with this project or with SciStarter. You can do citizen science all year long to contribute to SciStarter's 2.5 million acts of science. And again, any citizen science sort of stuff that you do related to that can count towards your required programs for this project. So let me actually head back to the RFP really quick and just go through the requirements, and then we'll get back to the Survey Monkey and go through the questions. Let me just check the chat real quick because I've been talking a lot.
Yeah, Annie, there's just a question around community dialogues, like what that is, what that looks like, and a question about, what would be considered a community dialogue. I don't know if you want to speak a little bit to that right now or save that for the end.
Yeah, no, I can go ahead and answer that right now. So, Claire, while I'm doing that, do you think you could get the link to the community dialogue guide and throw it in? So a community dialogue is exactly like Claire said, it's just a in-person or virtual event where you invite community members to come and share their insights, suggestions, concerns, things they wish the library was doing, things they think you're doing well. This can be wide open where you just put out a call and any community members can come. You can see it as more of a community leader dialogue where you invite leaders from various organizations like the school board or other nonprofit organizations, local businesses to come and talk about how they can work together. We've helped facilitate teen-led community dialogues where the teens are really talking to the grown-ups in the room and getting their feedback and sharing from the teen perspective what their thoughts are related to those suggestions and how the libraries can better support the teen population. So these are very, very flexible events. The best way to describe it really is they are a focus group plus. So rather than you going with a item or with a particular program and putting it in front of people and saying, what do you like about this, right? That's a focus group. You're getting feedback on one thing. This is more open-ended and it's more feedback about the library as a whole and what our community can be doing. And for this project, it's going to be feedback about what cool science is happening in our community. How can we tap into that science in our community? How can we get those scientists to share the amazing work they're doing, and how can we use science to better our community? So these ones will be super science focused and local science focused. But if you, again, want to focus on community leaders, community members, teens, tweens, younger audiences, that's wide open, and that's why you will have one of us as a guide as we're working through this project, so that you can figure out which type of event works the best for you. Claire just put the link in to our community dialogue guide. I would highly recommend you browse through that. We will be having an extension to that that's specific to this program, but that guide is a really good start, just talking about why we created the community dialogues, what people who've done them have learned from them, and how you might use, if not the whole process, at least bits and pieces of it, to learn more from your community. Claire, could you unmute Cynthia, please?
All right, Cynthia, you should be good to go.
Cynthia, if you're talking, we can't hear you. Oh, that was a mistake. No worries. I always raise my hand in meetings too, because I'm like, ooh, what does this cool button do? And then, oops, I wasn't supposed to hit that cool button. No worries. So as far as what these selected libraries will be expected to do, one is host one of those community dialogues. So I'm so glad that you guys already had questions about them. And again, we will provide so much support for those. You'll be tired of hearing about us. We expect them to host a minimum of 2 public engagement events. This says in the spring, summer of 2026. This program does run through the entire year. So if they happen to be later just because of your schedule, that's fine. We also fully expect you all to have dozens of programs because you're libraries and that's what you always do. We are only requiring 2 because we want the smallest, most rural libraries to feel comfortable doing this and to feel like they can meet the requirements. But we will definitely, if you do more programs, we'll love to hear about them and we'll have a final report form. In essence, all we're going to ask for on that final report form is the name of the program, a web link or flyer if you have one, and then the number of people that came to the program. Like it's not an exhaustive description of everything, just the very basic information. Um, We'll also ask that you collaborate with at least one local partner. So these are just some examples: Nature Center, Astronomy Club, Audubon Chapter, local PBS station on your events. So this can be the astronomy club comes and does one of your required programs. It could be someone from the local raptor conservancy bringing a bird to a story time, anything like that. We just really want you to reach out into these science resources in your community and get them into your library. Even better if it's someone that you haven't reached out to before. And that's something that you can describe to us in your application, which we'll get to in a minute. We're also asking, if y'all remember that map I was talking about, for you to contribute at least 10 scientific achievements that have happened or are happening in your state, territory, community to that digital map. We will have a template for this. It will be very easy for you to do. We don't have that template ready for you quite yet. So no stress about that. You are just saying, yes, Annie, I promise I will do these 10 things, and then we will hound you until we get them. What's really cool is your library will be highlighted, like there'll be a pin for your library on that map, so your patrons can go and see the stuff that was submitted by their library. As far as how you will come up with those 10 achievements, that is entirely up to you. You can choose to say, I am a librarian, I am a keeper of knowledge, I know the 10 items, and I'm going to write out very descriptive things and get you all kinds of resources. That's great. You can do that. You want to have a contest instead and have your patrons submit and then vote on the achievements that'll be submitted by your library. That's great too. If you do that and you're like, we came up with 20, I'm so sorry. How do I cut them down? You don't have to. I will accept 20. That's fine. 10 is just the minimum. And it's really how many we'd like from each library to really make this meaningful. But if the way you do it means that you get more, or there's just a lot that's happened in your community, that's absolutely fine too. We'll also ask you to curate and display a collection of books related to the history of science in America and the science topics or the science topics relevant to your community. We'll ask you to just share a picture of that in your final report. We also have a community site that many of you are already members of because of the eclipse. We'll have a private page for Science Across America on there where you can also share your images to give other folks ideas of displays that they can do as well. And like I said, we'll ask that you record and report information about event attendance, demographics if you have them, and community activation. So, hey, because of Science Across America, our library decided that we're going to do this citizen science program about water quality. That's the kind of thing we'd like to hear about. And then lastly, we'll have a post-project survey about how your community engaged and the resources they use. That will be more just optional based on what your community has done. You kind of consider that the evaluation survey for the project as a whole. Does science include engineering? Yes, it absolutely does. I mentioned architecture yesterday, and someone's like, wait a minute, how is architecture science? And I think I said something like, how did they get that big arch up in St. Louis without using some science, right? So I think the definition of science is very broad, and it can definitely be expanded to include what's important in your community. I fully expect some communities to focus on farm science, and I fully expect some communities to focus more on the hard sciences, and that's fine. Rachel asked, do the scientific achievements need to be citizen science or can it be STEM, STEAM based? Nope, definitely does not need to be citizen science. If you've got a cool citizen science, like the example of our neighbor discovered a comet. That's great. But really, we're probably expecting the scientific achievements to be more of the STEM, STEAM, like things you'd find in a textbook. But we want to open it up if you do have those local achievements, that those count as well. But once we've got the first draft of the website available for you all with the 100 or so moments that we've started with, that'll probably give an idea of the type of thing that we're looking for. But again, we're looking for what's meaningful to you and what's meaningful for your community. So it's very flexible. All right, so let me get back over to the RFP so we can walk through our questions. And again, any other questions, just throw them in the chat. You guys are doing great. So important information. I stress this every time, and we manage to mess it up. We, you, all of us, every time. Most important thing I can get from you is an accurate shipping address, preferably one that's not a PO box, because we're gonna be sending you stuff. So if you can make sure that the address that you put is an address that actually accepts mail, and again, preferably one that accepts FedEx, that would be great. If you cannot accept FedEx packages at your location, that is fine, but don't give me your physical address then. Give me your PO box. I want it to be very clear. I can accept a FedEx if I'm giving you a regular address. I can accept only post office, and I'll give you a PO box. So I hope that makes sense. Email me if you have questions. Street address for FedEx, PO box for USPS. That would be awesome. I've definitely messed a couple of these up, so we'll get it right this time. So yeah, just this is the contact up here is you guys, right? It's the people who are invested in the program and who are going to be the contact, who want to be added to the web page. There's a place later where we'll ask for your director to say, yes, I approve, or whoever has to approve, but this is you. This is the person who cares about this program, who will be running the programs, who wants to get all of the information. I think I maybe haven't made that clear in the past. So sometimes people put the director who then says, could you please stop sending me these emails, Annie? This is great, but Susie needs them, not me. So put Susie, not the director. We're going to ask you to identify the population served at your location. Census is a really great way to get that if you don't know, as well as your community type. I recognize many people live on the bounds of these particular definitions. Put what makes the most sense to you. It's not a big deal. It'll be fine. And then the meat. The other things are just so that we have demographics. We're not using that information on the last page to qualify or disqualify anyone. This is the important stuff. The others is just so that we have the background. So in the proposal narrative, you will have up to, we're not counting, but please don't go too far over, up to 400 words in each section. So your first question is just simply, this is where you pull my heartstrings. That's what this question is. Describe why your library wants to participate in the project, what your community interests are in STEAM topics, who your patrons are, what collections you might have access to, resources or programming focus areas related to science that you've done in the past, especially if they're related to local science. I want to hear about what makes you the best library to do this work. And if the answer is, we aren't doing it yet and we're desperate to do it, that's a great answer too. But this is not the place to put on your academic hat and just write a plain, boring description of what your library does. I want to hear that you're excited. I want to hear that your patrons are excited. Quotes are always great. This is the place to really pitch that you're not just doing this because your director told you to fill out an application. You want to participate in this program. Question 5, this one's very simple. Please don't think too hard about this. I just want a list of the staff and volunteers who will support the project and then why they are supporting the project. So for example, if you say, my name is Susie and I am the program coordinator, so I'm coordinating programs, that's sufficient. But if you've got a volunteer, and you're having that volunteer do it because they're a retired scientist and they used to run expeditions to the Arctic, spend time talking about the expeditions to the Arctic, right? I want to hear about why the people who are participating in this project are really unique individuals who can support the project. If it's just, hey, I'm the program coordinator, I'm coordinating programs, please write that, but you don't need to go into too much detail. But detail on unique individuals would be fantastic. Question 6, this is again, community dialogues are required a component of program participation. You definitely don't have to have done a community dialogue in the past. And we don't expect you to have already planned your future community dialogue here. So what I'm asking you to do here is tell us how you've gathered feedback from your patrons in the past. So this isn't just so that we can hear, yes, you care about your patrons. This is so that we can take the great ideas that you share with us here and incorporate them into our updated community dialogue guide. So do not be surprised if part of your answers, and if I'm literally copy pasting, I'll ask your permission first. But don't be surprised if part of your answers show up in our updated community dialogue guide because you're doing something cool. We want to do what makes sense for you guys, not just what we're from up high telling you to do. So we're definitely going to borrow whatever your answers are here. So in addition to telling us more about how you've gathered feedback in the past, we'd also like to hear what you'd like to focus on in your community dialogue. So again, I don't need your whole community dialogue plan. I don't need a draft agenda yet. You'll work on that with us later. Please don't stress about that. But if you tell me, we live in an area that has a lot of manufacturing, and I really want to learn more about the science behind the manufacturing process. That's a great answer. So what you want to focus on in your community dialogue that is relevant and specific to your community. So I want to hear what science is happening in our community. Not a great answer. Everyone wants to do that, but something a little more specific that ties it into what's happening in your community, with your patrons, with the kids at your library, anything like that would be super relevant. So building partnerships, identifying local science, learning about the history of science in your community. Again, this is what interests you. There is a link here to our community dialogue guide if you want just some refreshers on what those dialogues look like. But again, we'll be kind of creating our own version for this project as well. So don't feel like you're too hamstrung by the existing guidelines. We are also very, very interested in this project in reaching underserved and underrepresented audiences with regards to STEM and STEAM topics and programming. So very important requirement here is that y'all identify at least one principal underserved audience that you'll reach with programming for this project, and a strong case for why you've chosen this audience and how you'll reach them. You can refer to census data. You can talk about, quotes from specific patrons, information from your school district, whatever backup information you want to use is fine. I'm not prescriptive as to what that looks like. The important thing here is that it's a new audience or you are increasing reach to an existing audience. So a very common answer that we get, these are from the folks who were told to fill out the form who don't actually care about the program, is girls are our audience. We're going to reach girls. Well, of course you are, because you're awesome. And girls come to the library and boys come to the library, and you're going to reach them. If you want girls to be your audience, I want to hear specifically that we're going to proactively reach out to female scientists in our community to provide role model work for the girls who come to our programs. Something specific like that. Just saying girls are our audience or African Americans are our audience. That's not enough. Them existing in your space is not enough. What proactive thing will you do because of this project to increase their engagement, or if they're not already coming to your library, to get those folks to come to your library? Feel free to email me if you have questions around that. Again, it should increase their participation, not just state that they're using the venue. I know I'm hammering that into the ground, but it happens every time. So I want to make it clear you are increasing an audience's participation through some proactive measure. Next one here, we talked about this in the requirements. Collaboration with STEAM organizations and or individuals with STEAM expertise is very important to the success of this project. So we want to hear about who your potential partners are for this project. So this could be STEM and STEAM organizations, individuals in your community, folks that you've worked with in the past, folks that you want to work with in the future, and what your plans to work with them may look like. So you should reference both STEAM organizations and community organizations in your response, if that makes sense. So if you say, hey, we're going to work with 4-H, and through 4-H, we're going to get more kids from the local after school program. So that's a the school program is the community organization, 4-H is the STEM organization. How are you bringing in folks? It could be, hey, we're going to do more stuff with junior first robotics league, and we're going to do it in combination with the church's after school program. So again, a STEM organization and a community organization. We're very flexible what that looks like, and we're very flexible on if you've already worked with them or not. So if you've already got a relationship with them, just make sure that you're talking about a new program, not something you're already doing, because it's great that you're already doing it. Say that in the very first question. This is for new stuff, the new stuff you're going to do because of this program. We don't need a letter of commitment from those other organizations, but we do request that if they are a new organization you haven't worked with, that you've at least reached out to them and they've said, yes, I'm interested. So don't just assert that a certain organization is going to work with you. Make sure that they're excited about it first. And then regardless of if you get chose for this project, you should follow up with them and definitely follow through with that potential partnership. And then number 9, this is where people tend to go over their 400 words, and you really don't need to do that. I am autistic, and I can tell when people use ChatGPT, and I will tell you, the last applications, there were a lot of, I want to do a program about birds, ChatGPT. Tell me what a great bird program sounds like. And I had to read the same description like 17 times. So please don't do that. I want your own words, even if it's just a sentence, about what your potential programs are going to be. So this is the required 2 programs for public audiences of any age. If you're like, Annie, I can't limit myself to 2, and you want to put 4 programs, and you want to say, here's my pre-K program, here's my elementary, my high school, and my adult program, because that's how you separate your programs, that's fine. Feel free to do it that way. But tell us what who the audience for the program is, what partners you might have at that program, and then just a very brief, written by you, a real human being, description of what that program looks like. I also teach at the University of Denver, so I am a little triggered by ChatGPT responses. I promise I can see them. Um, um, so yeah, and again, remember the programs can be done in collaboration with your current or future partners. Again, don't go overboard here. I want to hear your cool ideas. What we always do here is we will kind of gather those ideas and put them in a document for the chosen libraries to look at so that they can see, oh, I hadn't thought about doing a rock hound program, or I hadn't thought about, now I can't think of a good example. I hadn't thought about having the pre-K kids do a citizen science program with the nursing home, right? So your cool ideas are going to be the starting and jumping off points for other folks as well. So please share your cool ideas. The coolness of the idea, much more important than the quality of your writing. Be yourself and you'll do fine. And then the very last question, we just would like you to describe your general publicity plans for promoting your events and your community engagement, and how your partner organizations described elsewhere in the application might aid in that promotion. This isn't a big deal. If you've got a web page that you promote stuff and you want me to go look at how well you do that, give me the link to your webpage, that's fine. What I would really like to hear, more important than what your publicity looks like, is how you're going to work with your partners. So we're working with the local school district, and they've agreed to send home a flyer every 3rd Thursday about library programs. That's great. That's the kind of thing we're looking for, how you are working with your partners to promote the things happening in this program. And I do believe that is the last real question. And then we get to this certify authorization page. This is where I need the information about the certifying official at your organization. This might be your director. It might be, if you are a county organization, it might be someone up above the library infrastructure. This is just to say that they know that you have applied to this program and that they know that there is a stipend involved. If you are unable to accept the stipend, that is fine. We'll ask you about that once we pick the 107-ish libraries. But again, we just want to make sure that nothing is a surprise to the people who need to approve these things in your organizations or in your city structures. So you'll put their information there, check the little box that says, yes, I am not lying. They know about this, and then we'll be all done. So typically we time these out. Typically, if you were to just sit down and write your answers, because remember, we're not asking for citations, we're not asking you to get letters from anyone. I would expect it to take about an hour to complete the application. If you are a very persnickety person, maybe closer to 2 or 3 hours, but on average about an hour. And I would again recommend that you fill it out. And let me just bring it over here. Fill it out in the Word document that we've linked to. Here it is. The Word document that we linked to in the blog post. Any questions about the application? While you're doing that, I am then going to grab the rubric for the application so that I can promise to you all that this is fair and balanced. I don't see any questions. Again, in that blog post, there is a link to this rubric. Both the rubric and the questions and the FAQ will just, when you click on them, they will automatically download to your computer. So it won't open a web page, it'll open a document so that you can take notes on it and do whatever you need to do. So for each of the questions, we are going to score them between 1 and 5, with 5 being the best answer and 1 being, oh, I'm sorry, you shouldn't have tried, which none of you will get. You will all get 4s and 5s. But I want you to make sure that you look at the rubric and that you pay attention to what a 5 is, because I think you can all write 5 answers. And we are not trying to trick you. None of these are trick questions. We are giving you the type of answer we want. This is really about your enthusiasm for the project and your community's enthusiasm for the project. So for example, question number 1 about your community interest, your community and your library interest, a very good 5-point question. Will describe the community interest in the STEAM topics, will cite demographics, collections you already have, resources and programming that you've done or are interested in doing, and then again, your prior experience with STEAM programming. And it will all be done with a smile and excitement, right? A lower score might be you wrote all of that, but it really felt like you were just writing the info from your annual report and you're not excited about it. Like, I can't stress enough that your excitement is what I need to hear to make sure, because a lot of people are going to apply for this, right? You get a stipend, you get that really cool story wall, hopefully some other stuff that's a secret that we'll let you know about later once we know. So there's a lot of cool stuff happening. So I want to make sure that it's folks who are really going to put the time and effort into this, not someone who just applies to every application StarNet sends out, right? I'm sure that's none of you, because you'd be tired of hearing from me at this point, but I want you to be excited. For question number 2, about the staff and volunteers, this one's really easy. Just provide that detailed description of the staff and volunteers. Pretty sure on the flight path application, everyone got a 5 on this question, so don't stress about this question. I need this information, but as long as you fill it out, that one's not going to hurt you at all. I'd say number 1 is the most important question. Oops. Oh my goodness gracious. My screen's going insane. And then question number 3, this is the one about community dialogue. So you'll notice a good answer is not an agenda for your potential community dialogue. That is not what I'm looking for. A good answer provides a clear and thorough description of your past experience and future plans for soliciting feedback from your patrons. What have you done and what do you want to do? And then a clear and thorough description of how community dialogues or a similar framework will benefit this project. If you guys are like, look, we've done Harwood training and community dialogues are just Harwood light. Why would I do a dialogue when I want to do Harwood? That's great. You can use the Harwood method with our questions for this requirement, but tell us about it. Tell us why having these community conversations, whatever you want to call them, is going to benefit your participation in this project and how it's going to benefit your patrons. And that's what a good answer is. Question number 4. Sorry, I was trying to remember what the question was. So question number 4 is about your underserved or underrepresented new audience. So I feel like I should have highlighted new audience in this. It can be a new audience, or remember, increasing participation of an existing audience. So a really good answer identifies your new or your new underserved or underrepresented audience, cites census or other data to make the case for this audience. Again, this can be school district data, whatever you need, and describes how the program specifically helps reach those audiences. How are you bringing them in if they're not already coming? A three, as another example on this particular question, would be compelling information about your audience, but no connection to the program, right? So, wow, this group really needs our help, but you don't actually say how you're going to do it or how you're going to get them in. So it needs both those pieces, who we're talking about and how we are getting them either into the library or into these particular programs that we're planning. We're almost done, I promise. Question number 5 is about the partnerships. So a great application is going to describe the new or existing partnerships with the STEAM entities, describe the new or existing partnerships with community entities, which I should have noted in the application, but it's noted here. You might have an organization that does both, and that's okay. You can just have that as your main partner if they do both sides of that equation. And then you describe project-specific plans to work with those groups. So this is Science Across America. This is not Flight Path, right? So if you're like, oh, we're going to do bird stuff. Wait, what does that have to do with 250 years of science? So remember the program we're talking about. So how talking about the past, present, and future. Remember, the future is there too, of science in America and specifically in your community, how that ties to your planned partners. I mentioned Junior First Lego League as a potential partner. You could list them and have a really cool program idea and not get a 5 on this question because you don't make the case how Junior First Lego League contributes to that story, right? We're libraries. This is about stories, the stories of the past, present, or future of science. So really make sure that that connection to the themes of the project is coming through. A 3 on this question would be, you talk about your new or existing partners, but you really don't tell us much about them or how they're specifically related to the project. So again, I'm giving you the answers here for how you can do a good job. It's just really up to you to spend the time to do it, because I know that you all have great ideas. And then question number 6, that should say 2. Oh my goodness, I have a typo. So a great answer for question number 6 provides at least 2 detailed program examples. You're welcome to provide more, and list the potential partners for at least one of those described programs. So you don't have to have a partner for every program you do, but we do require that at least one program has a partner. If you just provide a program example with very little detail, like just the title of the program and then not the connections to the theme, that's when you're going to get those lower answers. So keep the theme in mind, past, present, and future of science in America. This is a good place to bring back in your underserved and underrepresented audiences. If you want to highlight how they'll be participating in these programs, you've got a lot of leeway here to really make that compelling narrative. Now, because I give you this rubric, hopefully, most of you do an amazing job and you all get perfect scores. In that case, what the heck does Annie do? We've got 2 additional scores. One is a need score. So this represents the overall impression of need for the venue. This does not mean that if you are a large, well-resourced library, you should not apply. That is not necessarily what we mean by need. You could be well-funded, but you have a terrible time getting a specific underserved audience into your venue, but you have a great plan. That means you have a high need. There is a high need to get that audience invested and interested in science. So you're going to get a high need score. This is not about, I want the smallest library or I want the most urban library. That's not what we mean. What can this program do for you? Now, if you've told us that you're well resourced, you have all the programs you want, you don't really have an underserved audience that isn't already fully activated in your programs, you might have a really great idea, but your need score is going to be low because your audience doesn't necessarily need this program. You don't need this program. So that's what we mean by that. And then, because I am a qualitative researcher, we also have an overall score. We will only go to this score if everything else is tied. So this is literally just, and I just want to be honest with you that this is how we're doing this, right? Because this is pretty fluffy. This is our overall impression of the application. So if we are tied across every other metric, then we are just going to look at, man, was this person excited? Did they really make the case for their venue? Did they really make the case for their underserved audience? Am I, Annie Holland, excited to go and participate in their programs and to see the results of their community dialogues? So you are writing to Annie, Claire, and Brooks. You are writing to science-excited people who love libraries and love library programs. You are not writing to a dispassionate audience. So keep that in mind. We probably won't need to get to that level of the score, but in case we do, remember you're writing to us, and you unfortunately all know us very, very well. Unfortunately for you, fortunately for us. So that's the rubric. The very last thing I want to point out is, and I've lost it. Oh no, is the FAQ, frequently asked questions. I think I should be able to get through this, but let me just check the chat real quick. Brooks is correct. Being involved with Flight Path does not affect your eligibility in any way, shape, or form. Being involved in any of our projects does not affect your eligibility. Rachel asked, would Department of Natural Resources qualify as a partner? What about Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts? Perfect. And those are very good examples. DNR would qualify as a STEM partner, and Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts would be more the community partner. So one's the science, one's the audience. Now, if you have a Boy Scout or Girl Scout troop that like science is their thing and like the parent leaders are all scientists, they could even count as both. They could be your STEM partner and your community partner. But generally speaking, something like the Girl Scout and Boy Scouts is going to be your community partner. Something like Department of Natural Resources is going to be your STEM partner. Very good question to allow for perfect examples. Good job, Rachel. So how do I know if my library is eligible to apply? What a good question, Annie asked herself. All public and tribal libraries in the United States territories and protectorates, those freely associated states, are eligible to apply. School and university libraries that host free programs for the general public are also eligible to apply. School and university libraries who host free programs for the general public. So not you're going to do a cool program with your students, but you're going to do something that is open to everyone, and they do not have to get any sort of background check to get in. That was a sticking point with a previous applicant. They would allow people to come in, but you had to get the background check. That's too much extra work, and I know you're a school, and that makes it hard, but we want it to be free and open. State library agencies may also apply as long as you're able to conduct the required public programs and community dialogues. If you have not done community public-facing things in the past, but you're interested in doing it because of this program, that is fine. Just answer the questions to the best of your ability with your future plans in mind. I work at a military library. Are we eligible? Man, the answer is different for every single branch. So what we have decided is the best thing for you to do is to say, yes, to us, you are eligible. We would like any military library, including ones who are, stationed in Japan or wherever. That's fine. However, you need to contact your on-base chain of command to see if they think you're eligible. We ran into a huge problem with Eclipse classes where we sent stuff to dozens and dozens of military libraries, and then some of them were forced to send the stuff back. So just contact your on-base chain of command, and they will be able to answer the question. But from our perspective, please do apply. The application mentions reaching underserved and underrepresented audiences. How do you define this term in a way that doesn't get me in trouble? Underserved and underrepresented refers to folks who have historically and currently been excluded from STEM and science fields and careers, from participating fully in society, or benefiting from public services. So, as I've said a few times, living and working in a community populated by these groups is not sufficient to apply to the grant. Ensure your proposal narrative describes how you will explicitly target the groups you hope to serve, thinking about the groups in your community who have historically been excluded. It could be women, girls, rural populations writ large, Indigenous, Black, immigrant, neurodiverse. Think about how they have been excluded from your venue. If you're already doing a good job of reaching them, kudos, great job. I'm very excited and I want to hear more about it, but it's not enough for this. I need to hear about the folks who are having a hard time getting to and what you're going to try to do with the community dialogues and the programs to reach them. So again, new audience or increasing participation. The application says we should be partnering with STEM, STEAM organizations. What are some examples? Some of you have already given them. So I'll say first off that these organizations should be providing content support or programs, but don't necessarily help you draw in a new audience. That's kind of the distinction between the STEM partners and the community partners. So it could be something like the robotics club at your local high school. That would be cool. 4-H, industry contacts, local museums, citizen science groups. More important than the type of organization is their community involvement. So, do they come and do stuff like what you're going to ask them to do, and their ability to help you reach new audiences? So, definitely think beyond your current partners. It's great if you have current partners. I'd like to hear about them. But new partners is really, the whole point of the community dialogue framework, once you all go and look at it, is to identify new partners, people who should already be supporting you in the community. Libraries are awesome. You all know this. When we talk to different community organizations, they're like, "Oh, I don't know that the library does such a good job. I don't know if they need us." Of course you need them. We just need to get you all together and realize, hey, we can all support each other. So new groups are great. And then for the community organizations that do not necessarily focus on STEAM, are we allowed to partner with schools? Yay! Yes, a school would be great. I know sometimes schools are hard. That's the only reason schools aren't a requirement. If you can't partner with a school, please do not worry about it. The intent of the community partnership is to target underserved populations, increase reach, and identify those folks who aren't currently benefiting from library services. So you can do this through school partners, churches. Churches are fine, guys, it's fine. Rec centers, places in the community where people gather. These are all fantastic partners. You can also consider culturally focused groups if that's appropriate to your target audience. Kiwanis, I'm like, my brain is blanking on other groups right now. There's so many community-based organizations and organizations that are meant to support community togetherness that would work for this. I have 2 minutes. Um, so the application says we have to do 2 programs. What if we do more? Then you're great. Thank you for doing more, and I'm sure most of you will. How do we know if a specific type of program counts? It counts. Whatever you want to do that is using the themes of this program, the past, present, and future of science, science in our community, 250 years of science in America, if it is about that, it counts. I do not care if it is story time versus a week-long celebration. That counts. Just tell me your cool idea, and it will definitely count. And you all know that you'll end up doing way more than 2 programs anyway, so I would not stress too much about an individual one. When must the 2 programs occur? They can occur anytime during the project period, which will be stated in your contract. We need to get the exact dates down, but this is a celebration all year of 250 years of science. So there is some flexibility, even if the program period ends a little bit before the end of the year. We're flexible. You know us. It's fine. You'll be all right. Someone said, or an example question, we currently host programs similar to community dialogues, but use a different strategy or template. Can this be used to fulfill the requirement? Yes, absolutely. As long as you're focused on the big idea that we'll be presenting in the community dialogue training, you can use whatever strategy it is that you want. And in fact, when you're in your group with me, Claire, or Brooks talking about your dialogues, we would love to hear about the strategies and frameworks that other folks are planning on using so that we can better incorporate those and support people who are using them. So that is absolutely fine, and it'll benefit others to hear from it. This is a very important one, and there will still be people who mess this one up, so I want to say it. I work at our central library and wish to apply on behalf of one of our smaller libraries. Is this okay? This is not okay. The reason this is not okay is 90% of the time this happens, that smaller branch is being applied on behalf of because they have the underserved audience or because they need more programs, and they did not ask to be part of the program, or they were told they were going to be part of the program. It works much better if the person who is going to be in charge of the programs is the one applying. So please, if you want to support a smaller branch library in applying, you can do that, but I really want to know that I have their buy-in, and the best way to do that is for them to be writing the application themselves. If you are a large system and you have a grant writer, the same applies. The grant writer can certainly help in the process, but I want to hear from the library staff who are doing the programs. It does not bother me if the writing is not professional. What bothers me is getting template language when I want sincere from the heart language. So keep that in mind as well. And then finally, what reporting requirements do we have? There'll be a final report due within 60 days of the contract completion. You're welcome to do it earlier if you finish your programs earlier. It'll ask you to describe programs hosted, pictures with photo releases if you have them, and provide numerical or demographic information as it is available about each program. And we will provide a draft of that final report prior to the program start or within the first month or so of the program starting. But you can get to this from that blog post, so no worries if you had to leave early. We are 2 minutes over. I'm so sorry. I'm such a chatty Cathy. If anyone has any questions, we can take them now. But again, I hope this is pretty self-explanatory, and I hope it's exciting. We're super excited, if you couldn't tell.
There is one question that I answered in the Q&A, and I'll just read out loud for folks listening to the recording. But what's an example of a scientific achievement in my community? So I just gave an example that I just learned about from a previous meeting. But like there's a scientist that I'm working with who is creating a database about wildfires. So he's met with fire chiefs at multiple conferences and put together, a group, a network of fire chiefs in the West, and has asked like what data would help you the best? And they're like, we have all the data. Like there's so much data. We need like a database. We need it all synthesized down. And so he's working on that, and it will reduce the response time that firefighters have when making decisions about where to send people for their fires. So that's huge for us out here in the West. And that's happening, occurring right now in my community. But there are achievements that can be from any area of STEM. As Annie mentioned before, when I lived in Jackson, Wyoming, there was a really cool place called the Vertical Garden. The growing season is so short up in Wyoming. And so the Vertical Garden was all hydroponic growing, where they could have fresh greens year round, which is a huge, that's an incredible thing that was done in the community of Jackson, Wyoming. So just, it could really be from any disciplines, but just think about, what businesses are in your community, what's happening at the colleges or universities, what's happening in the high schools. Someone mentioned, having their science fair should be showcased during a community dialogue, which I think would be super fun. But kids are doing science, and they're coming up with things, and there's apps being developed all the time in communities to make your communities better. So I feel like it's limitless, what is out there, and we'd love to hear what's going on in your community.
Yeah, and something that I neglected to mention, and I feel like I always neglect to mention, is we, once the libraries are chosen for this, we have like monthly optional check-in calls. So it's not like we're just going to dump the requirements on you and expect you to figure it out on your own. There's going to be so many opportunities to chat with us and to chat with the other project participants, both in person on those calls and then on the community page. So there'll be a lot of learning from each other as well. And someone did ask, the deadline is December 27th. I know we are in the holiday season, so I apologize for that, but this is what works the best for us. So thanks for your flexibility. And again, as Michaela asked, if having participated in Flight Path affects your eligibility. Not at all. Everyone is welcome to apply. That is not one of the selection criteria at all. All right. I'm sure you all already have it from the newsletters, but I'm throwing my email address in the chat just in case anyone comes up with any other questions. I will add them as if anyone has any more really relevant questions, I will put them as a comment to that blog post so that everyone can see them. It's what we normally do. That seems to work out okay. But otherwise, good luck to everyone. May I especially encourage Rhode Island, who never applies for our things, to apply? Rhode Island friends, please, we need you. Oh, and it's also worth noting, if you're sitting here thinking, oh God, I live in California, and you're only picking 2, we will likely pick more libraries in the bigger states, and we might only end up with 1 library in the smaller states by population. So please don't worry about that. All right, thank you all so much, and we'll get the recording posted in the blog post tomorrow. Have a great night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Claire. Thanks, Brooks, Amy.